Welcome back to Tata Steel Chess. It is now time. It was a great interview. It is now time for your round 10 rapid recap. And Fiona, there were a lot of games that we could have chosen. We decided to go with Fabiano Caruana against Richard Rapport, which was a fascinating game in its own right.
Indeed. So from the get-go, surprise, surprise, we got something quite unusual, which with Richard Rapport, that's bound to happen.
It really is. I mean, the typical move here is d5. There was a different game in this very round between Giri and Duda that followed d5. But here, Rapport going for a more old school move, c5. This allows e5, and now the knight drops back to g8. The point is that white has this big hole on d4. But Fabi, instead of going knight f3, which is the main line, he goes for the immediate d4. And pretty quickly, we had a series of simplifications, Fiona.
Yeah, it looked like this game, we were thinking might end somewhat peacefully. Let's see what happened, as Richard Rapport actually did a great job controlling all of Fabi's initiative.
Indeed, and Fabi in this position, after a series of normal developing moves, he plays queen g5, essentially forcing a queen trade because of the attack on the g7 pawn. And it does definitely look like white is slightly better here. Black is a bad bishop. White has the possibility of castling along. But Rapport makes a very impressive move, f5. This move has two purposes. The first is to send the knight back to f7, where it's controlling a lot of important squares. And as we'll later see, he also sets his pawns in motion, and later on he can go e5, e4. And the next stage of the game was also very well played by him.
Yeah, starting from this moment with f5, a strange-looking move. I was thinking, I like Fabiano's position, but Richard started playing very precisely, and after knight e5, as you mentioned, the knight drops back to f7, which led to a series of exchanges.
Yeah, it did. As I was indicating, you can't take that knight. Knight f7 is so cold-blooded. Knight takes c6, bc. And even though it looks like black structure is damaged, white has to go for this move, bishop e3. Otherwise, either you lose the f-pawn, or in the event of bishop h4, the bishop gets trapped. So after bishop e3, both sides now have a damaged pawn structure, and Richard brings his king up to e7. And now, he's not just slowly developing. This is typical Rapport, very ambitious, Fiona. He just starts pushing his pawns down the king side, trying to grab as much space as possible.
Indeed, Fabiano trying to reroute, bringing his knight to c5, and those kingside pawns, they just keep on rolling.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been more prudent to go h4 at this moment. We were discussing that. That could have averted some of the subsequent problems that befell Fabiano. He decided to do something similar. After h4, he goes g4. Obviously, he's inviting an en passant, and then he's going to get control of the h-file. Richard doesn't do that. He doesn't take en passant. Nope. Instead, he goes knight e5, centralizing his knight. And Fiona, this is the most important moment in the whole game.
Absolutely. Fabiano now going astray with rook d4. From a distance, it might be easy to have to miss what's happening, but after knight g4, the problem is that you recapture, but black is not forced to take on g4 immediately.
No, black plays this wonderful intermediate move e5, which fell out of Fabi's field of vision. It attacks the rook, forcing the rook back. And then after f takes g4, black is not just up a pawn, but look at this massive pawn phalanx. It's only a matter of time before black breaks through with g3. And that's kind of what happened. Rapport making another very interesting decision. Rather than just clinging to the pawn, he decides to sacrifice his extra pawn back, but instead to activate his rook. It seems like he sacrifices two pawns, but no, he recovers one of them. And ultimately, they get this type of material situation where black has this incredibly dangerous majority on the king side. And Richard converted that majority masterfully, Fiona. And the next stage was just lovely.
Yeah, look at this technique. First, of course, the rook gets activated, hitting the knight on f2. That went to d3. And now the pawn majority you're just mentioning starts advancing. The rook giving a check. The king, of course, stays on the side of the pawns. Maybe it was better to go the other way, but the natural move, king e2.
Yeah, king c3 was an interesting try with the idea of playing e4, actually, trying to dislodge the bishop. After king e2, king f6, e4, black has the move rook e8 here. So that might have been a more resilient try, but who can blame Fabi for, for playing to e2? Richard continues to cramp down, stopping any possible pawn motions on the queen side. And then after fully improving his position to the absolute maximum, he is ready to break through g3. And of course, if h takes g3, black wins the game by playing h3, h2, and sticking a bishop on e4, dislodging the rook from h1. Fabi was forced to move the rook up to g2, but Fiona, this is not a sustainable defensive construction.
And the final stage, look at this beautiful move that's coming up after h3, Fabiano going a3. And what did Richard play here? How do we make the pawns go through? Rook d8.
Bang.
What a move, Daniel.
The rook from d2. Amazing move. If rook takes d2, there's g takes h3 and g takes h2, and the pawn is simply unstoppable. Fabiano was forced to move the rook back. And there's another detail, which is that if knight takes h3, Richard has several winning moves. So the simplest is just to take and then to take and to promote to a queen. Fabiano had to move his rook back. And the final move of the game is bishop f3, clinical stuff, threatening checkmate. And the point is that if Fabi intercepts that with knight e2, then the pawn is going to take on h2 and promote. Not easy to beat Fabiano like that. He made it look easy, but of course the blunder helped. Still, it was an exquisite effort by Richard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Richard mentioned in the interview he got a little bit lucky, but from there on out he played with clinical precision. A beautiful game. This was your rapid recap of the day. And Dania, I mean, it is 9 o'clock here. We've been live for over 7 hours, and what a day it has been. Here are the results of this round 10.
Wow, I can't believe it started at 8 in the morning my time. It's 3. And the results, indeed, 3 draws. They were pretty peaceful. The 4 decisive games were all incredible in their own way. Andre winning, Gradelius, and Niels and Pragnananda, I think they're the real heroes of today in terms of their resilience, their ability to withstand phenomenal resistance by their opponents, Daniil Dubov and Vidit, respectively.
Indeed.
What can you say? This is why we watch.
This is why we watch chess, indeed. And I am still laughing. I couldn't I'm so tired. I couldn't tell if I had said rapid recap or if I had said recap.
Recap rapid.
It's that time of day. I said rapid, yeah?
Recap.
I literally couldn't. That's why I started laughing. Anyway, the standings. At the top, they haven't changed so much. Magnus Carlsen maintains the sole lead on 7 out of 10. Anish Giri is still the closest pursuant on 6.5. And behind, now Richard Rapport with his win, he is suddenly lurking there, just 1 point behind Magnus, alongside Mamedyarov. And so very likely, I would say, Dania, that the tournament victory will be decided between these 4 players.
Absolutely, and let's have a look at the pairings, not for tomorrow, but for the day after, for the next round, round 11. The important matchups, we have Carlsen, Vidit, and Vidit's reward for losing to Prague with white. Yeah, how about Magnus with black? How's that? Prague himself is going to be playing Caruana. He's going to be looking to extend that winning streak. Grandelius Esipenko, Duda Shankland, and Anish Giri against Van Forest, a game that I think Anish is going to try to play for a win, because with the rounds, with the tournament nearing its conclusion, he's going to try to close that half-point gap between him and Magnus Carlsen. And the round, Fiona, is not tomorrow. So
it's not tomorrow. I think
coverage.
Never has a rest day been scheduled better than the one from tomorrow. I think
Absolutely.
I definitely need it. The players need it.
Same.
I think we all need it after today. But we'll be back 2 days from now on January the 28th at the same time, 2 p.m. Central European Time, 5 a.m. Pacific. Dania, it's been emotional today.
It has been very emotional, but it's also been a lovely experience. So thank you to you, Fiona. This was so much fun. And we know that it was an emotional and hopefully a fun experience for everyone in the chat as well. So thank you to everyone on Twitch and on YouTube for watching and cheering on your favorite players.
Thank you so much, Dania. It's been a pleasure indeed. Big shout out to the chat, to our producers, everyone watching. And enjoy the rest day. Tomorrow we'll see you 2 days from now. Have a good one. Bye-bye.